Okay, recording is active.
Okay, thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. This is the November 18th, 2021 hearing for case file L2100244-SU/D/V/V/AMP/M, an application for a Chevron Market, convenience market and gas station. My name is Joe Turner. I'm the county's hearings officer. The applicant, I understand the applicant is going to request a continuance of this item because they plan to make some changes to the site plan and their application based on, in response to the staff report and public comments. So I'm predisposed to grant that continuance. I will work with, I'll tell you the specific dates once we confirm that. I think it's going to be January 20th at 9 o'clock, but I'll confirm that. I would encourage everyone to, rather than testifying today, hold your testimony so you can address the and testify at the January 20th hearing, because there may be changes to the site plan that either address or modify your concerns. But I will allow anybody who wants to, who's present today, to testify if you want to, in case you're unable to attend the January 20th hearing, or you're here now and want to do that. And I see some at least one raised hand so far. And if you want to testify today or have questions, you can click on the raise your hand button on my screen. It's on the bottom center of my screen. Click on that, a hand icon appears next to your name, and I'll give you the chance to do so. But in the meantime, just so everyone is on the same page, there were a number of issues. My review of this application is based on the requirements of the county code. I don't have the authority to vary from or change the code. If you think that the code needs to be changed, you can work with the Board of Commissioners and Planning Commission to do that. But this application must be judged based on the laws in effect when the application was filed. There were a number of issues that don't address the approval criteria. For example, I can't just veto this application, as some people have suggested, or require an alternative use for this site. It's a private property. It's zoned for neighborhood commercial development. Gas stations and mini marts are allowed subject to certain restrictions. So I can't just say this can't happen. The issue is whether those gas station and the proposed gas station and mini mart meet the applicable approval criteria which are set out in the code. Whether this use is needed on this site or if another use would be better, or the financial feasibility of this development are also issues I can't consider. Concerned with fossil fuel use, global warming, although extremely important, are not criteria that are applicable to this application. The last issue, this application was never denied by the county. This nearly identical application was submitted in 2020. I believe it went to hearing, but then the applicant withdrew that application. So there was no final decision on that 2020 application. So this is a new application that is currently under review. I think that's the issues I wanted to hit at this point. Mr. Robinson, I understand you're representing the applicant. Yeah, I see your hand raised. Can you go ahead and unmute yourself? Oops.
Good morning, Mr. Turner. Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. So yes, for the record, my name is Michael C. Robinson. My last name is spelled R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N. My mailing address is 1211 Southwest 5th Avenue, Suite 1900, Portland, Oregon, 97204. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant. And if the hearings officer would like, we can make our request now, or if you'd like us to wait, we can do it later.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay, thank you. So as you correctly said a moment ago, the applicant has considered the staff report recommendations and public comments and would like to make changes to the proposed plan in order to address those issues to the extent that he can do so. And I want to emphasize, we've had the county issued the staff report on time. We've had it about a week. We have had some internal discussions about what would make sense to do and what we can do, but the applicant hasn't come to any conclusions. So in order to accommodate this, the applicant requests the following, that the hearings officer take public testimony today And I just want to say, and I recognize I agree with what the hearings officer said a moment ago about public testimony, but the applicant doesn't have any problem whatsoever with listening to public testimony, and we don't want to encourage the hearings officer to cut it short. Whatever the hearings officer wants to consider is fine with us. But you take public testimony today, that you defer the applicant's presentation or rebuttal to the continued hearing date. And before the continued hearing date, the applicant will submit any revised site plan it proposes so that the public and staff have adequate time to review it and prepare their testimony at the continued hearing date. The continued hearing date that I've discussed with Mr. Schaefer is the date and time certain of January 20, 2022 at 9 a.m. And we would expect the procedure, Mr. Turner, to be the same that day as it would be for any other hearing day. In other words, you'd make the public announcements required by local and state law. There'd be a staff report. The applicant would make its initial presentation, and then the public would have an opportunity to testify, and then applicant's rebuttal. And then there might well be a request for the hearing to be, the record to be left open. And if there is, the applicant would further extend the 120-day clock to accommodate the hearings officer making a decision. So I hope that's clear enough. If you have any questions, please ask me. Other than that, that's the extent of our presentation today. And we appreciate your time and that of the staff and public.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. Schaefer, where are we with a 120-day clock?
Oh, oops.
Thanks. Go
Sorry,
ahead,
I forgot. I knew I'd forget this. If the hearings officer grants this request, the applicant will extend the 120-day period by 63 days. That's the amount of time between today and the continued hearing date of January 20th.
Okay, do you know where we are so I know how much time I have to issue the decision after that?
I do not know, but,
Okay, yeah.
but the point of the continuance is so that you don't lose ground.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So if you're looking for the current 120 is January 6th for reference.
So we'll 63 days beyond that. Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
For those of you who are attending, state law requires that I issue my final decision on this case within 120 days after the application was filed. So there's some limit to how long I can continue, but the applicant has agreed to extend that, which it's within their control, by 63 days to accommodate this continuance. So that puts us out 63 days beyond January 6th that I have to issue my decision. So there's no issues there. Mr. Robinson, can you click on your raise your hand button so that goes down? And apology, but the only name I have is Virginia, who has their hand raised. I don't have your last name because when you raise your hand, it cuts it off. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself. It looks like you did. And
yes,
can you tell me?
Virginia Bruce, and I'm a resident of CPO1, and I've been following this case. I would just simply like to suggest that as the applicant goes back to the drawing board, that he consider a wall on the south side of the development that would block headlights from interfering with the wetland and the wildlife there, and place some compatible artwork on that wall on the south side that will add to the enjoyment of the neighborhood.
The south side facing the open space, the wetland, right?
Yes, exactly. It would be a wonderful gesture on his part to make the development more compatible with the wetland and the wildlife area.
Thank you, Ms. Bruce. And Ms. Bruce, can you click on your raise your hand so it goes down? Thank you. And Mary Manso?
Mute. Hi, this is Mary. I actually live in CPO7 and involved with the steering committee for CPO7. And I would like to request that when the applicant submits new material, that they consider doing a neighborhood meeting, because there is so much interest in this application, and it's difficult to distribute information to everyone that is interested.
Thank you, Ms. Mansell. Ms. Bruce, I see your hands raised again.
Thank you. I was looking for community comments in the staff report, and normally they're appended to that report, and I haven't been able to find them anywhere. So if LUT could provide us a link to where we can read the comments, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, I will ask staff to do that. think I've seen them, but I'll write. I'm sorry, I do this in a number of different jurisdictions, and Washington County provides me hard copies, so I don't know that there's a link, but I'm sure that the county can provide that, and I appreciate you raising that. They were voluminous, so they're not physically attached to the staff report because it would have added a lot of pages. But I will ask staff to do that during. Maria Fernandez Diaz.
Good morning.
Can I get you, can you state your name and your mailing address too, please?
Yes, it's Maria Fernandez Diaz, and it's 18715 Northwest La Pine Street, Portland, Oregon.
Thank you.
And you know, it's with regards to the wall, it's kind of sad to hear that, but I think that sometimes the neighbors are kind of coming to the realization that this project will happen regardless, because there's no attention to what's going on. Maybe, I understand your point that, you know, you are bounded by code, but a wall will just reduce a little bit of the light pollution to the neighbors. It won't do anything about fumes that's coming out of the gas stations. And I will ask for, and maybe that's not part of what you do, but we cannot ignore what's going on right now in the recent developments. Okay. So, so it's something that I really want neighbors to be aware. Fumes won't be limited by a wall. And that's one of the main issues with having a gas station so close to a park and to a residential area.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez-Diaz. Odors are relevant under the county code. I can't give you the specific standard, but it's in the staff report that the applicant has to address that. So
yes, and it's not only odors, it's toxic.
Right. And I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what the code says, but it does talk about hazardous substances, but I'm sure that's all defined, but I believe that issue is relevant, so I will consider that. And I'm sure the applicant will address it when they present their proposal. John Brewer. And would you state your name and address, please, once you've unmuted yourself?
There we go. Lovely. John Brewer, I'm president of CPO 7 in Bethany. The proposal from the developers talks specifically about real-time measurement of water quality, runoff quality, using a quote high-tech system. I had not seen any details on what that system is, how it operates, how the analysis is done. I actually have some expertise in this area, and I'm curious to see how much specific information has been developed on the ability to do real-time analysis of water quality from the runoff on the property. I think it's also a critical part of developing this property, given where it sits and how adjacent it is to some heavily used, you know, both creek area and lake area.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Do you know where that real-time measurement reference was? Which
I read it in the Cedar Hill Times newsletter. They actually used a quote.
Okay.
And I actually have contacted 3J, which is the consulting organization that did the site analysis on runoff. I have not yet received their report. I actually had gone to Representative Dexter's office and asked her office to help me figure out how to get to this information. Typically, the consultant has posted all of his projects on his website. This project is not posted. And so I reached out to the contact point at the consultant and asked for the report. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, thank you, sir. Because
Thanks, appreciate it.
That particular reference to real-time measurement, I don't recall seeing. I'm sure the applicant can address that in the continued hearing and probably during the open, before we get there. Janie Lindquist. And Lindquist, would you also state your name and mailing address?
Yeah, my name is Janie Lindquist. My mailing address is 5090 Northwest Canida Drive, Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And my question is when I'm looking, will new plans be sent out when they are ready?
You can contact the county, and I'm going to ask Mr. Schaefer if the county can put it on the website so people can access it there. But the county will not, because I'm continuing this to a date and time certain, there won't be any additional public notice. We're going
No,
to
that,
resume on January 9th, but all this information, the application, et cetera, is all public record, and anyone can review it. I'll ask Mr. Schaefer what the process is for doing that.
okay. And then in regards to what I'm viewing is, I'm actually but right up to West Union there where they would be building.
Mhm.
And it appears that they would be actually cutting into my yard. If that is so, will I be contacted directly?
They can't if it's your private property, and if it
Due
may
to
be
the
right of
road
way.
widening?
Your yard may extend into the public right of way. People, it's not always clear when you're landscaping, et cetera, or your predecessors, that where the boundaries are. So if it's within the right of way, they can
I have boundary lines.
alter it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have boundary
if it's
lines.
on your private property, no, unless they compensate you for, if it's just the applicant would have to, you could say no, and that ends it. They can't do anything on your private property. The
Mhm.
county has the option, if they really wanted to condemn your private property, compensate you for it. That's a whole different issue, but I
Okay.
don't see it happening.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
where we're at.
Thank
Okay,
you. So
thank you.
much.
Ms. Manso, I don't think I got your address. Can you give us that? Just so our
Yes.
record's complete.
Mary Manso, address is 5230 Northwest 137th Avenue, Portland, actually Bethany, Oregon, 97229.
Thank you. Didn't want to skip that part. And I'm just finishing my note on the last one. Ms. Fernandez Diaz, I see your hands back up.
Yes, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
I can see a little bit further from the comments and the questions that neighbors are raising, because I have spent 20 years in the environmental field. As a consultant with one of the largest engineering firms here in Portland and on the world, I have cleaned up many gas spills. I have also kept records for many refineries on gas station spills. So I know for a fact that monitoring is not enough. What happens if there's a spill? Yes, we can catch it, we can see it on a monitor, but what will happen to those species that will be directly affected? I just want to say and I have mentioned this in the past, there's not enough money or time to clean up an oil spill, especially one on a lake.
Thank you. I'm sorry, it cuts off your last name again, Virginia. I don't.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't think you got my address either.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Bruce. Thank you. Yes,
Yes,
please tell me
it's-
what your address is.
Virginia Bruce, 3270 Northwest Kinsley Terrace. That's Kinsley Terrace, unincorporated Washington County 97229 with a
Thank you.
Portland zip code.
Great, thank you. Appreciate you raising that. Does anybody else want to say anything? Please raise your hand now. Otherwise, I will go back to Mr. Schaefer and ask about, I'm not seeing any other raised hands. So Mr. Schaefer, how can the public access the current application and whatever's submitted during before the hearing?
As far as the public comments go, ways they could come in and look at the case file at the counter if they wanted to do that. We do have PDFs and of the comments that I sent to you. We can send the PDFs of the comments to anyone who would like to receive them. They just contact me, send me, and I believe my email's on the notice, or they can send it to the notices. The address is there, and it'll get to me as well. So we can get the comments to them that way.
Okay.
And I forget, was the second part of the question? Or was that?
That's how can they access the whatever submitted by the applicant during the or before the hearing? And I'm going to ask Mr. Robinson what kind of a deadline, when they can submit everything by, so that the public and the staff do have the opportunity to review it before the hearing. So we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, this is kind of a unique situation of, because we don't typically post applications. We do post the staff reports, as you know. As
But
far
they
as
can
revised-
come in and review it. Can they
Yeah.
just contact you?
Yeah, they contact me and they could come in and review the revised plans that way.
Yep.
Might be the easiest way since we don't typically post things. We can scratch our head some more on that, but as far as if there's other ways to do that.
Okay. Oh, the call in. Do we have one call in person? How can they raise their hand on the phone?
Oh,
I wrote it in my last hearing.
I
note,
don't,
but
last hearing, I think what I wrote.
it's star something.
Yeah, raise hand is *9, and then
Thank
to
you.
toggle mute is *6.
So whoever's on the phone, if you wanted to raise your hand, you can hit *9, and then when we call on you, you can hit *6. Mr. Robinson, I see your hand, but I thought I saw another one, but it looks like it went away. Oh, Mr. Robinson.
There, is that, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Mr. Turner, I'd be happy to answer two questions that I heard, and I apologize. I got kicked off the Zoom call for my laptop, so I'm on my phone. So as to when we'll provide this additional information, I don't know for sure, but I think I can safely say before the end of the year. The continued hearing date is the 20th. That means the staff report has to be available by the 13th, and we'd want to give the information to Mr. Schaefer with enough time so he's not pressed to issue a staff report. So I think generally by the end of the year, and hopefully well before that. And then I don't have a solution for how you make written documents available in the virtual world, but I will ask, and I can't commit my client to this because I've not spoken with him, but my suggestion would be that we send whatever revisions we have to the CPO and let them figure out how to distribute it.
Okay.
We're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
So looks like that's the end of the comment. So what I'm going to do is continue this item until January 20th at 9 a.m. We'll reconvene at that point. Another question, Mr. Schaefer or tech support. How do will there be a new Zoom link, I guess? And so will the county need to send out public notice for that purpose?
Good question. Since this date's certain, we don't send out notice, but I'm not sure how that works for IT.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Michael scheduled all the hearings officer meetings with the same link because it's a reoccurring meeting. So it should be the same.
So this same link will work on the 20th?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. That makes much easier. So Ms. Susan Nolte, I see your hand. I'll get to you in just a second. I see a Washington County LUT1 hand raised as well. Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That's next.
That happened.
That's
on
in the
accident.
wrong box. That's Ms. Bruce. Ms. Bruce, I see you as well. I'll get to you in just a second. Now I've forgotten what I was going to ask. So with this continued hearing, I think that addresses my other issue is this continued hearing, the same link will work. So everybody when on the 20th of January can click on the same link and come back. Ms. Bruce, you have a question.
Well, just a comment. I believe that CPO 7 receives a full set of the plans. And I also believe, but I'm not positive, that they put those at the Bethany Library.
Wonderful.
Yeah, which it may be more accessible for people than going down to the county office. People would need to confirm that with CPO 7 or the library, but it's a practice in CPO 1 and CPO 7 to share those large land use applications with their tablecloth sized drawings at our local libraries.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Susan Nolte.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Can I get your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Susan Nolte. I live at 17055 Northwest Springville Road, Portland, Oregon, 97229.
Okay.
I just have a couple questions and would like some clarification. Number one, there was the request for the public to be able to view public comments. So those written comments have not been scanned.
I think they have been. I've got a packet recently that were submitted after the staff report is a PDF. But you can contact Mr. Schaefer to review those. And he may
Okay,
be
and
able
I
to
know
send them on to you.
I submitted comments and I put them in a Word document. So that's a digital document.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that other people did that as well. So there's no,
A lot of things are coming in by email. So
yeah. So in this digital world, it's not possible to make those digital documents accessible to the general public.
I think the comments themselves, I think Mr. Schaefer said he can, anybody who wants to contact him, he can send those on by email. I'll ask him to confirm that when we get to that point before I close the hearing today. But
okay, and then
yeah.
I believe it was was it John Brewer that was commenting on runoff issues and how to access the applicant's information that he'd provided regarding that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer wasn't clear to me how that information is available or whether it's available, because I was also trying to find that data as well, unsuccessfully.
Okay. That particular item, that the runoff control, may not be in the record yet because I don't recall seeing that specific issue addressed. I'm assuming the applicant will address it either in their new submittal and or at the hearing. But you can review, you can contact Mr. Schaefer to review any part of this application.
I'll wait till review his response before submitting my response for that January 20 hearing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Manstone, you had another question or issue?
Actually, I have information. I'm the person who handles the paper for CPO 7. And with this particular application, we did not put it at the library because there was so much interest in it that we sent it to the group that actually was coordinating a lot of the effort. And they have set up actually a website called nabgas.com. And they have posted almost, I think, every piece of material that they were able to get their hands on that website. So if the county wants to get that to us electronically, we can forward it on to the group that is hosting that website, and we'll be sure to get it posted there. But, you know, unfortunately, the CPOs are kind of dealing with life using 1980 tools in 2021. And, you know, I think the county isn't much further beyond 1980. And I can't believe that you're still getting stuff in paper rather than electronically. But, you know, we are where we are. So thank you.
That's something I plan to discuss with the county outside this hearing, but it's a technical issue and literally technical.
Yeah.
How they do that and whether their systems could accommodate it. But I agree, it would be much simpler and more current if everything could be put online. A lot of jurisdictions that I work for do that. So there's a way to do it. I don't know how it happens. I just get to click on the link and go for it.
Let me know. Let absolutely, the volunteers that are trying to run the CPO program absolutely support that. And
yeah.
if
anybody has any suggestions for how the county can do that, you can contact Stephen Shane, or Mr. Schaefer, either one, and I'm sure they'd appreciate your input on how that process can happen. And I see Mr. Shane's hand raised, so I'll let him talk about that.
Thanks, Mr. Turner. That's a nice segue. We do have a way to do this to post to an HTTP site. I've been a little hesitant to offer that up just yet because I don't have my IT staff here and am unfamiliar with the details of that and what their workload might be, etc. However, that being said, I think we can do that. I think we can create given the voluminous amount of interest and comment on this case, I think we can do that digitally. I think I'll look into that. Paul can get back to the interested parties on that point, but just to be safe, be in touch with Paul. Paul can always submit the PDFs of all comments to you as requested, as we've gone over. But just throwing that out there, letting you know, we will look into a more simple way to get this accessible to all.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Shane, just as a side note, I will contact my other jurisdictions that do this, that put it online, and see what their process is, and send those on to you if that might help.
That would be good to know. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Turner.
The tech is beyond me, but I'll give you some connections of what they're doing and how they do it.
Always good. Thank you.
So I don't see any other raised hands. So with that, I'm going to close this hearing. I'm going to continue it until January 20th, 2022 at 9 a.m. We will reconvene at that point with that same link that's in the current public notice for this hearing today. The applicant will submit any new information to the county by the end of the year, December 31st. So you can contact Mr. Schaefer when that comes in and work out how you can access and review it. And I appreciate the CPO and the Neighbor Association creating the website. I think that at least facilitates the public access, and we can see if we can do more of that in the future. But that concludes our hearing. Thank you all for your testimony and appearing, and we'll see you all in next year. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.